Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features the Uncanny X-Men number 226, cover dated February 1988. And this, as the caption reveals, is a special double-sized issue. There's 40 pages of story on the inside, and it marks the Fall of the Mutants crossover storyline part 2. Within the Uncanny X-Men title itself. So the cover here is by Marc Silvestri and Dan Green. It features the Adversary, the face of the Adversary there in the background, seemingly killing the X-Men. It's not a scene that we see on the inside of the comic, but noteworthy is the technique here employed by the colorist. So we've got a color hold going on, which is showing the skeletons of the X-Men characters in magenta here on the cover. And interesting to note too, that if you look very closely at Wolverine's forearm here, you can see his sheathed claws also showing up on the inside in magenta. Okay, so if we open up the comic, to the opening splash page, we see Wolverine here lying injured. His healing factor is knitting together his body after he was blasted by the lasers that Ford set up to defend Eagle Plaza when the X-Men tried to enter in the previous issue. Also, some of you will note the signature here at the bottom of the page, Chris Claremont. So I bought this issue as a back issue, and I never knew until I looked inside it that it had been signed by Claremont. So that was pretty nice finding that on the inside. So let's open up to the next couple of pages. Now, something to note also about this issue is it's 40 pages of story, and Silvestri's putting in on average 7 panels a page. So it goes anywhere from 5 to 8 panels depending on the page, but on average 7 panels per page. There's a lot of story going on, and I'm going to be put to the pin of my collar to comment on everything. But the X-Men have taken refuge inside Eagle Plaza at the end of the previous issue. They have Mystique prisoner, and Havok is wondering about whether they can set up a prisoner exchange for Psylocke, Dazzler and Rogue, who are unconscious outside the plaza. Meanwhile, Destiny is here and bemoaning the fact that she's lost her precognitive powers, that she sees nothing in the future when she scans the future. She sees no future for the X-Men, certainly, perhaps even our world, as she says here. She sees nothing. So in the meantime, some of the building collapses inside, and Colossus moves to protect Mystique and Madeline Pryor, who's also there with the X-Men. And Mystique suggests that everyone should get out of there, and that the X-Men should surrender to her. But Havok responds, "That's not a choice, lady. That's a joke. I'd sooner trust a rabid dog." So Longshot points out the weirdness that it's the middle of the night, but there is a hole in the sky through which daylight is shining through. So this is the tear or rip in the fabric of reality wrought by the Adversary, and it's having some weird effects on Dallas. It's messing up the time continuum, and we're going to see some of that shortly. So beneath the half splash here of Dallas, we get an introduction to these characters. This is the first time that these characters appear in an X-Men comic. Manoli Wetherill and Neil Conan of NPR, National Public Radio. And these are fictionalized versions of personal acquaintances. In the case of Neil Conan, a personal friend of Chris Claremont's. So interesting, and he of course uses these characters in subsequent issues of X-Men, other Marvel comics subsequently, and also apparently Sovereign 7 as well, his own creator-owned series that he produced at DC Comics, but it was creator-owned after he left the X-Men in 1991. So these two intrepid reporters enter into the altered section of Dallas in order to find out what's going on inside, despite Manoli's misgivings. So creative team up here: Chris Claremont writer as always, Marc Silvestri and Dan Green credited as artists. Now what that seems to mean is that Silvestri, I mean, it's 40 pages. There was a guest penciler on Uncanny X-Men 223, and there will be another guest penciler on 228 after the Fall of the Mutants storyline concludes. On 228 it's Rick Leonardi. So Silvestri probably, I won't say rushing, but maybe not producing finished pencils, and that may be why Dan Green is getting an artist credit here on this particular issue. So then we go back to the X-Men, and it turns out that Dazzler is not unconscious anymore, and she considers making a run for it, but she wonders about what then would become of Psylocke and Rogue. But she uses her Dazzle powers on Freedom Force, and she picks up Psylocke and starts to make her exit. But then Spiral intervenes, picks up Destiny's mask, and then we get a really strange bit here in this issue where she uses her magic to fuse Destiny's mask onto Dazzler's face, magically stabbing the mask to Dazzler's face. So Dazzler can't get it off, and Psylocke thinks that she's killed her because it looks like the knife is stuck in Dazzler's skull. But she hasn't, of course, and she explains she can undo the charm anytime she feels like it. But she's attacked from behind by Rogue, who also has woken up, and who tussles with Spiral way up high. We get this wonderful bird's eye view of the two from Silvestri, but Spiral gets behind her, and then they're both shocked by something that happens off panel, which isn't explained yet. So then the scene switches to Aurora, Storm and Forge, who are alive and who have survived the conclusion of issue 224, where they appeared to die when Forge pushed them off the top of his Erie Mountain in Yellowstone Park, Wyoming, after Storm had stabbed him. So here they are on this alternative Earth, this alternative world. They're the only two people in that world, and Forge is recovering from having been stabbed by Aurora, who's now taking care of him. They've got some fish cooking there on an outdoor fire that has been set up, and they dialogue about what their relationship might be now at this point. And Forge asks Storm to stay with him, and it seems that they are perhaps being watched by some kind of eye up there, the moon, yes, but there is throughout these scenes the sense of being watched, because who or what created this alternative Earth is an open question at this point. Then we go back to Dallas, and we're going to have this back and forth between Dallas and the alternative Earth that Forge and Storm are stuck on, and time runs differently in Forge and Storm's world, where months and years pass by, while we're all what's happening in Dallas is happening on the same night. But time is twisted and disordered here in Dallas within the portion of the city that's in daylight. And you're getting dinosaurs showing up, you're getting these barbarian types, you're getting futuristic looking buildings and towers also showing up. So there's a complete chaos of time within this part of the city. And what happens is the X-Men and Freedom Force team up to help each other and help the citizens of Dallas against what's happening. Then we go to Manoli and Neil Conan, and they've discovered a futuristic news van, which Manoli thinks she can figure out how to work the equipment. The original owners of the van dead, and then Neil is about to get axed by this barbarian type when he ducks just in time, and Manoli shoots this barbarian monster figure here. Then our scene switches back to the X-Men and Freedom Force in the Galeria in Dallas, which has been invaded by a T-Rex. Longshot saves these kids from being gobbled up by the T-Rex, and then Pyro of Freedom Force helps out in this really cool scene where he basically barbecues the T-Rex, and then suggests if the city has a museum, they take the bones and set them up there. So it's a little funny bit here between Pyro and the kids, and the kids actually, even though they were rescued by Longshot, using a slur regarding the fact that the X-Men are mutants, muties, and Longshot rather somberly asks, or even ruefully asks, does that mean we're not human beings, or that we can't be heroes? And then we get this general melee with these barbarian figures attacking the police, the Dallas police, Freedom Force and the X-Men helping out. We've got a nice scene of Wolverine doing what he does best, popping his claws and taking out these barbarians. And we have commentary on it all by Neil and Manoli, where Neil is a big fan of the X-Men. He thinks they're heroes, but Manoli is somewhat skeptical. She says that the difference between the X-Men as mutants and human beings is their powers, and power corrupts. So they have this debate throughout the issue, but it does come to a climax towards the end of the issue, which we'll get to in time. Then our scene switches back to alternative Earth and Yellowstone Park, Wyoming, where Forge's Mountain on this alternative Earth has been destroyed. So he checks it with this flower and discovers that the power of this nexus, this point on the planet, still exists, but it's been tainted, twisted into a force inimical to life. Anyone who tries to draw on it ends up the same. So then he explains to Storm about the nature of the adversary and how everything is a game to the adversary, how they're his pawns, and how the adversary does what he does simply for sport, which of course Storm finds obscene. So then she determines to head off on a quest of her own, and in the meantime Forge is determined that he's going to work on something while she's away, so that the adversary discovers that his precious pawns have transformed themselves into queens. Then we're back to Dallas and Eagle Plaza, where the X-Men, working together with Freedom Force, have set up an emergency response operation where they're helping out injured citizens of Dallas and helping out generally in many other ways. The news team turn up as well with the camera on and interviewing Mystique. Mystique gets irked by some of the questions, but Havok in particular gets angry at Manoli's comment regarding Freedom Force working with outlaw mutants. So there's a great little speech here by Havok. Listen, lady, if the X-Men were the crooks everyone likes to figure us for, we wouldn't even be here. Anybody with sense would have skipped town at the first sign of trouble. But we've been good guys, what you media types dub superheroes from day one. Risking our necks in a habit, and saving the world our speciality. We've done both too often to count and pay the price. The only difference is that this time, your camera lets folks watch on TV. And he concludes, well, I hope to blazes they enjoy the show. Now, this whole business about the X-Men being watched on TV is going to have a payoff down the road. So that's something that we need to pay attention to. And of course, Neil in the background is a big fan of the X-Men and Havok's speech. Okay. And that's something to note. Okay, so these are modeled on some friends of Claremont's, but a common aspect of Claremont's style is you never just get these characters who turn up for just functional roles in his stories. Even bit players, like the news reporters, get character development, present interesting critical perspectives on what's going on in the story. So that's a really interesting and admirable feature of Claremont's writing at this time. So then we go back to Psylocke trying to help Dazzler with the mask, and Spiral attempting to what word do I want? Attempting to undo the spell. That'll do. Attempting to undo the spell. She fails and she can't figure it out. She theorizes growing air of chaos about this accursed place, perhaps twisting my magic dance to keep it from working, but she's interrupted by Colossus, who grabs her by the throat and threatens her. But Psylocke confirms that she has indeed been trying to undo the spell. Then we're back to the alternative world with Storm on the eastern plain of Africa, where many on our world theorize human life began. The last time we saw her in that location was Uncanny X-Men 198, Life Debt Part 2. So this is Claremont's callback to that storyline, which was to have been concluded with another collaboration with Barry Windsor-Smith, which Windsor-Smith concluded with Ad Astra in Africa. And this seems to be Claremont's conclusion to that storyline, where Storm tries to call on the bright lady, the goddess that she's ever called on since she was young. But here now, on this earth, she beholds nothing. The world has no soul, she says. All the elements are in place, but they are formed without full substance, as if the world itself has yet to be truly born. It lacks consecration, a gift of the spirit to bring it to life. Is that why Forge and I are here, to provide it? Is that the reason there is no bright lady to hear my prayers? Because in this place, I am meant to be she. So this is a hint of where perhaps Claremont would have liked to have taken that life debt storyline if there were to have been that third part, a trilogy. Storm becoming a life-giving goddess, a bridge between Homo sapiens and Homo superior, as she intuits at the end of issue 198. Then we're back in Dallas, and then we have this strange moment where Indians from the 18th century turn up, and they are there because they have come to help. They recognize that what is going on is the work of the Adversary, and when Crimson Commando asks if he can be stopped, the leader says, there is a way. Our medicine chief, the maker of things, our forge, that reshapes spirit into reality, has spent a lifetime preparing for this battle. The magic must be made atop that high place of power. Eagle Tower. The man who lives there, who built the place, he's called Forge, says Crimson Commando. He's Cheyenne too, and a mutant. That can't be a coincidence. But before anything further can come of it, this guy here, in his Coyote Jeep, or pickup rather, blasts away at the Cheyenne Chief, killing him just before the Cheyenne Chief says, I know not of whom you speak. So he is from an earlier time period, has come to help, but we're getting clues as regards Forge, our Forge in the present, who's on the alternative world and who is going to have to play a part in the defeat of the Adversary. And this character is going to turn up later in the issue as well. So he and these other Texans with their rifles shoot the Cheyenne, killing them, leaving Crimson Commando to reflect. He came to us in friendship, Stonewall he's talking to, offering help against a common foe. Didn't matter that our two peoples were age-old enemies. To him, we were all human beings, but we killed him anyway. You ever wonder sometimes whether we even deserve to be saved? So, over the page, we're back to Alternative World, where Storm has returned from Africa to Forge, and in the meantime, he has created this this new home that is solar powered. You can see the solar powered panels there, and they reunite and kiss, and then we're back to Dallas, and these barbarian figures attacking the Plaza. Some of the Texans there with their rifles shooting the barbarians, Freedom Force and X-Men working together. And then we have Colossus wondering here about something which prompts him to go to Destiny and ask her about what she sees. And her response is death, the ultimate void, oblivion, unending chaos, the end of all. And yet, a glimmer, the faintest of possibilities, so small, I never perceived it till now, within the eagle's eyrie, the merest chance for life, for Freedom Force, the world, humanity, but none for you. Oh, Colossus, my dear boy, I see nothing for the X-Men. Whatever happens, your fate is sealed. So, ominous, yes? But Colossus is determined to go in to the Plaza. And even as he determines to go in, so that others should live, the rip in reality above the Plaza widens. It tears wider still. And more of the city is washed by this awful eldritch daylight. And again, there's more time twisting and blending of different periods. So Colossus suggests that Psylocke read his mind, and when she does so, she recognizes Roma at the center of Colossus's thoughts and his memories of the woman, the strange woman he met in Edinburgh in Uncanny X-Men 224. And Psylocke knows about Roma and explains to those readers who aren't familiar with the Captain Britain comics that Roma is the guardian of the Omniverse, supreme caretaker and arbiter of reality. Okay, so they're determined to reconnoiter Forge's penthouse. Wolverine instructs Rogue to check it out, and Mystique instructs Spiral to get up there first, but Spiral is blasted at the top of the building, and Rogue catches her. And what happens then is Blob catches both of them. Rogue pulls him out of the pit made, and now they enter again the plaza, the lobby of the plaza, but one of it seems Forge's holographic displays is running, and it is a display of Vietnam again, which we saw before in Uncanny X-Men 186, Life Death Part 1, that Forge has a holographic version of Vietnam stored on his computer, and it's playing there now. But then back on the alternative Earth, we meet up with Forge and Storm after time has passed, indicated in true comic book form by Storm's the length to which her hair has grown. Her mohawk is rather gone now at this point. and the romance between Storm and Forge has really developed. But Storm is determined to thwart the adversary, and so Forge is being prepared for that, and says, well, it's up top on the new area that they're going to set about thwarting the adversary. So back to Dallas, back to the lobby of Eagle Plaza. This Viet Cong soldier pops up. Colossus stands in front of the bullets. Dazzler tries to help out despite being blinded. And this chap, the guy who fired on the Cheyenne Chief, is also there in the lobby. And Wolverine sees and smells something off about him as he thinks to himself, this good old boy isn't what he seems. But then, round this madhouse, what is? So, the different groups debate about what to do next, and Wolverine tells Mystique that she should stay out of the plaza. Think, woman, if this is a trap, no sense in all of us being caught. Moreover, somebody's got to stay behind to protect the civilians. You're feds, Mystique. That gives you a credibility my outfit can't match. And all of this is being filmed by Neil and watched by Manoli. So Wolverine concludes, despite Mystique reminding him that destiny has seen nothing but death for him and the X-Men, Wolverine concludes, yup, ours alone, or ours and the world's. If we gotta go either way, might as well make it mean something. So the news reporter puts down the camera, shakes Wolverine's hand, but Manoli hears the message. I'd like to shake your hand, he says, and she'd been skeptical about the X-Men, but this tear that she's shedding there indicates that she's being won over by the heroism displayed by the X-Men in the course of this particular issue. So then we flip back to the alternative world. Storm and Forge are preparing atop the new Erie to try and restore Storm's powers. Forge has used what technology he has in his own bionic leg to fashion a device to restore Storm's powers, if only she has the belief in them. Then we're back to Dallas again. Interesting, the back and forth here, almost page by page, which is developing this growing sense of tension and expectation. The rhythm of the back and forth narrowing down now to almost page by page. So here Wolverine gives the assembled X-Men an opportunity to back out of what is seemingly a suicide mission, but they're all determined, even the blinded Dazzler, to stick with the team. And up they go to the penthouse of Eagle Plaza. Back again to the alternative world, where Forge uses his device to blast Storm. And what's the result? The result is nothing, it seems. But then she kisses Forge, and in the background these storm clouds gather, and then there's a crack of lightning, and she realizes she's got her powers back, is able to fly, and so uses the lightning to charge this pentagram symbol that Forge has set up on the top of the mountain, and they blast their way out of the alternate world, it seems. Then last page, back in Dallas, everybody's leaving Eagle Plaza because a wind is whipped up, and this guy here, the guy from the Coyote pickup, is revealed to be the Adversary all along. And so the villain is finally revealed, because all through this issue, the X-Men Freedom Force, they don't know who or what is responsible for the rip above Eagle Plaza. They're all guessing, but now the Adversary reveals himself. The Blob picks up Mystique and hightails it out of the plaza, and then the whole penthouse seems to blow up. So what a cliffhanger for the next issue, which will be the denouement of the X-Men's portion of the Fall of the Mutants storyline. So I very much hope that you have enjoyed this video where I've covered the double-sized Uncanny X-Men 226. If you did, please like the video, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.